I found a weird show. I'm Laura,
I'm Beans.
I'm Lauren.
and I found a weird show called From, and I have dragged my friends along with me to talk about it. And if you have not checked out our first episode, we went through the first episode of the first season of From. And in this episode today, we are going to talk about the second episode. Lauren has written the recap for this one, so I will let her do most of the steering on this one.
Yay! And I am so sorry in advance to everybody because Laura did such a good job with episode 1, and I don't think I'm that organized. So I will do my best. Both of you, please feel free to jump in with anything that I've missed, which will most likely be names because I am horrible with names. So sometimes I just wrote that deputy guy or father, don't know his name. So
Well,
yeah.
they don't actually say his name until like the second episode. So I actually had to go look it up because I was like, what is dude's name?
I literally had a note that was like, "Make sure you go check out his name," because I didn't hear it during either episode. I was like, "I should go make sure I look that up." Totally forgot to, but then you said it when we were doing the first episode, and I was like, "Oh, Father Khatri?" I think is what you
Yes.
said.
Yes, his
So,
name is Father Khatri.
yeah. So I did write that down, so maybe it won't be so bad. But yeah, so I guess I'm ready if you guys are.
Okay, so do you have the title of the second episode?
I do not. I do
Okay, so
not.
the title of this one is The Way Things Are Now.
Yes, okay. So, The Way Things Are Now, episode 2. All right, we ready?
Absolutely. I'm
Let's do
excited.
it.
Okay, so we start episode 2 basically exactly where we left off episode 1. We've got the two groups that have separated, and most of this episode is just going to be jumping between the two groups. So we've got in the RV, we've got Boyd the sheriff, Jim, who's one of the newcomers, the father, Christy, who is the EMT, and then Ethan, who is the young boy, son of Jim, who at this point is passed out with his leg impaled on a table. So we've got that group, and then the second group, which is the group that left to go to the colony house, and that is Ellis, who is Boyd's son, Jade, also known as High Guy, Father Khatri, and then Julie, who is Jim and Tabby's daughter, and Tabby. Am I missing
And
anybody?
Kenny. Did you
And
mention
Kenny,
Kenny?
yes,
Yep,
and
sheriff's
Kenny,
deputy.
deputy. Okay, so we have those two groups, and then actually at the start of the episode, we get kind of a cold opening before the credits where we see a scene of Deputy Kenny covered in blood and just chopping a tree with what has to be the dullest axe that has ever existed, because he is just going hard at this tree and it's making absolutely no progress. But that's all we see, and then it cuts to the opening sequence, back to Que Sera Sera. So right after the opening sequence, we're back at nighttime in the RV, and Ethan is coming out of the seizure that he was in at the end of the last episode, and he seems to be okay. So like while they're fussing with him, suddenly we hear a knocking on the door, and if you remember at the end of the first episode, Boyd had said that they are coming. So we hear the knocking and someone asking if everybody's okay in there, and saying to let them in to help. The dad, Jim, not knowing about the monsters, thinks that the others have returned. They've come back with help, and he wants to let them in. Obviously, Boyd and Christy are freaked out by that, and they tell him no. But Jim is just very focused on getting help for his son, so he starts heading towards the front of the RV and says that he's going to let them in. So Boyd tries to push him back, and the two of them have like a physical altercation, a very brief fight of just like Jim trying to get past Boyd, Boyd trying to hold him off, and Boyd gets Jim in a headlock, it calms him down, and starts saying like, "No, you can't let them in. They aren't people, and they're not here to help." End of that scene. We
And
cut now.
that would be tough too because you just don't know what's going on and you're so
Right.
freaked out because of all the things that have happened. So I understand where Jim's coming from.
Yeah, like, he's, again, very focused on his kid who is still impaled on a table out in the middle of nowhere, like, it's been a very confusing day for him, and then also, like, no one's even tried to explain what's going on. I feel like they should have maybe tried to talk to him about, like, why you can't do things after night, um,
Maybe
but
maybe
also it's
some
just
less vague, like, "No, they're not human. No,
right,
we have to be in before dark." Why? Like, explain something to me.
right, right. Yeah,
And then on top of all of that there, we have a sense of familiarity with Christy and Sheriff Boyd, because they were in the first episode long before, well, not really long before, but we have a sense of familiarity of them as a character and as people in the show. This guy's got no clue. He's got no
yeah,
clue who these 2 people are. He's just praying they have the best interest of his son, in
yeah,
their minds, and these are complete strangers. I mean, half the time, I don't even trust my own friends. So, like, nonetheless, strangers touching my hurt baby, mm-mm.
yeah. Yeah, it's a very awkward situation, tough situation, and, like, we've seen the monsters. We know they're real. We know nighttime is bad. He's got no idea. So, yeah, it's a tough situation all around, and, again, there's really no good way of just coming out and being like, "Yeah, there are monsters. We have to stay inside," because then he's just gonna think they're crazy and wanna get out of there. But weird. Weird all around. Alright, so then we cut to the second group that is still running in the rain, in the dark to make it to the, colony house. And as they're running, we see the people inside of the house have spotted them and say there's runners on the hill, and they're gathering inside by the front door, but they are not opening the door. They've got guns, and they're starting to have some arguments inside about whether or not they should open the door. And this is where Ellis lives. So, like, all these people know him, and his girlfriend, Fatima, is telling them, like, "That's Ellis. We've got to let them in. We can't let them die." And meanwhile, the group is running. They've made it to the house. They're on the porch, banging on the door, asking to be let inside. And we see figures start to come in behind them. And this house, as we've said in the previous episode, is a massive mansion. It has a wraparound porch, so some of these figures are already on the porch, having come up on one of the other sides, and are walking towards them from the side as well as behind them. So, back inside Donna, this is Laura's favorite character, the
She's
presumed leader.
badass.
She is badass, but she's also the leader of the colony house. She arrives and tells the group inside to let Elijah and his group in, and says that no one wants to see them die. No one wants to let them die. Let's let them in. And tells them she knows they're scared, but we're not going to let this happen. So as this is happening, we see the group of others has stopped, on the porch right next to Julie, and there's a teen, um, or what looks like a teen monster that is smiling at her. All of them seem to be smiling from what we've seen of the monsters. And so he is smiling at her and says to her, "Julie, don't you recognize me?" Right before the deputy pulls a gun and shoots him. And I want to point out that this bullet does nothing to him. Like, he stops smiling for about a millisecond and then starts smiling again. Doesn't react to the gunshot. And I find that to be a little interesting. And
Yeah, and that's one of the things too is like from what you're seeing from the people in the show so far, it seems like there's really nothing you can do against these monsters other than
yes.
hide and like
Yes.
stay inside.
Yeah. And um and that happens right before the door opens and they're let inside to safety. But I also want to point out that Julie did look like she was shocked to see him. Like, even before he said her name, she looked like she recognized him. So maybe he is taking on the face of someone she knows. But this short porch interaction really stood out to me because, first of all, why did the monsters stop? I don't know if either of you clocked that, but, like, they stopped when they were maybe
No,
like 5 feet away.
100%.
And I think if they had kept walking towards them, they would have caught at least one of them because they were all just standing in front of the door, but the monsters stopped. So that was weird to me. Like, were they messing with them? Like, was this some sort of psychological torture of, like, we'll kill you later, but, like, for now, we want you to be freaked out? And then obviously, who is that teenage boy? Um, so
I 100% think you're right on that. And even just from these first episodes, not even going to my knowledge of the future in this series, like it seems like they really want to like play with them. That it's not about just I want to murder these people and rip out their organs and all that fun stuff, but
yeah.
it's that they want to like mess with them.
Well, and I guess if I'm putting myself in the shoes of these supposed, like, immortal monsters who can't be killed, how else are you gonna get your entertainment than by messing with people? Like,
True.
yeah, I wanna keep the same people around just so I can get into their heads, drive them crazy, and then once they're boring, then I'll kill them. But, yeah, it's still very interesting to see, like, this early in the show, not knowing much about it. It's like, okay, it's not just a, "We wanna kill people." There's something more to these monsters.
Yeah, they're not just like a mindless creature that's like, I want to murder everything in sight necessarily. They're more of a, they're hunting these humans
Mhm. Yeah.
and playing with their, playing with their prey.
Yes. Which is scarier to me. It's way scarier than just something that wants to kill me. It's something that wants to watch me squirm before killing me.
Ooh, yeah. No, that's, you know what? I hadn't thought of it that way. That's creepy.
It's really creepy. Again, I don't wanna be in this world, thank you.
Good to know
But
on our
yes.
road trip. If we run across a fallen tree, Lauren's like, and I'm out.
I would wait a little bit past the fallen tree because that happens. That does not necessarily mean we're stuck in a
She's,
town with
she,
demons.
we've
No,
got to
we
go
it
through the
has
Don't
to
kill
be
me
looping
the moment we
town.
see a tree down, please.
it has to be coupled with creepy crows, and then I'm
Ugh,
out.
Do you want us to
yeah.
wait until the looping town?
Yes.
Okay.
At least, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't I see my thing is it's like I think they were screwed from the beginning.
Yeah, oh, I mean, I think they were, but, like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna make that call to be like, "And I'm out," at least wait until you're sure.
Yes, at least wait until
Exactly.
we're stuck in the loop and then I'll call it. Okay.
We'll
So,
drink the bleach Kool-Aid.
yeah. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So, once they made it all inside, the newcomers are actually tied up, as is part of protocol. The people at the colony house, are clearly very skeptical of newcomers and people that they don't know, so part of their protocol is just tying up these newcomers for their first night, and they're separated. But I think overall they remain calm. They complain a little bit about it, but no one tries to fight it. They get tied up, separated, and now we're gonna head back to the RV for a little bit. So, back in the RV, it seems like the monsters have left. There's no one else talking outside, no whispering, and then Jim finally asks the big question of, "You said they're not people, then what are they?" So Boyd starts explaining, still vaguely, in my opinion, what's going on. He responds with, "We don't know," which is not comforting, in my opinion. And then he says that they've got the talismans that will keep them out if the doors and windows are closed. But then follows that up with, "We've never tried it on a vehicle, though." So again, not really comforting to me, but it's somewhat of an explanation that there's something other out there that we don't want to be near. And they go through the whole "this is impossible" denial thing from Jim, but he's also not really fighting it. And then Christy asks Jim if Ethan has had seizures before, and he says no. But now Ethan's waking up, and he seems in pain, so Christy gives him a sedative to help him sleep. Personally, I would have also been asking for that if I was in the RV. I think they all should just be sleeping through it. Um, but then we go back to the colony house, and we're briefly introduced to a new character. I did not catch her name, but she goes in and sees Jade, who's tied up but also passed out, and wants his watch. She thinks he's pretty, and stays just to watch him. Do you know her name, Laura? Do you know who that
Just
is?
I'm looking it up really quickly because, yeah, her name doesn't get said for a while, and she
Okay.
is kind of a character that ends up showing up a lot.
I figured
Um,
we were getting an introduction to her because we would see her more in the future, which is why I called her out. But at this time, this is the only interaction we see of her, and she just seems like a little oh gosh, I don't even know what the word to use is. Yeah, I don't know how I would describe her, but she
she's a little flighty. Trudy. I
yeah,
believe her name is
Trudy.
Trudy.
Okay.
Trudy is a little flighty, a little weird, a little, like, well, and I just see some of the comments she makes are like, "Okay,
Yeah.
girl."
Well, it's like seeing her in this, it was just like, oh, like she doesn't seem too concerned about like what's going on in the house. Like a lot of other people are very tense about having the newbies there, and she's just kind of like, I like his watch, and like it's not going to serve him any good, so I might as well have it. Like she's just kind of like there for the vibes,
And she's like, "He's so pretty even with the blood." Like,
right?
it's like, "Girl, girl."
And she's not wrong about that. Like Jade is pretty.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. I just need to understand what's wrong with these like spacey girls and wanting to stare at men while they sleep. It's giving Edward
Uh,
Cullen and I don't love that.
no, it is very creepy. You're not wrong about that either.
If there's this is the second woman who's wanted to stare at a man while he was unconscious.
Just
Okay,
stare at you.
granted the other one did murder that man. So, like, we already know she's got
I mean,
something
okay,
going
well, she's
on.
already one up on the other one, um, which I have my own thoughts and feelings about, but still, why are you gonna watch someone while they sleep? That's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't love it, don't love it. Alright, so next we are with Tabby, who is tied up in what I believe is Donna's room because Donna walks in, and Donna's, like, very I would say probably the most comforting person in this scenario because she talks to her and then she removes her ties, and then when Tabby tries to run away, Donna stops her and is just like, "Look, let's talk about how things are, but, like, we can't talk about this in front of your daughter." But she's gonna actually explain what's going on in the town and, like, why things are the way that they are. She's like, "We don't know you. Everyone reacts differently on their first night, so that's why, like, we've got to keep you separated, restrained." And then she starts to explain, but as she starts to explain, we cut away to Julie, who is tied up in the kitchen. And I think this scene, while not scary, not a horror scene by any stretch of the imagination, is maybe the most uncomfortable one that we've had so far. Because she's tied up in the kitchen, like pretty much in the doorway to the pantry, and then a man comes in and he says he wants to get some peaches, and like she's very clearly uncomfortable, and he like walks up to her, kind of like goes behind her, reaches past her, grabs a can of peaches, and then just like still stands there and asks if she wants some. And like it's very like again, nothing really happens, but it's just like body language, like he's just a little weird, and she is so uncomfortable. So it just like it made me feel uncomfortable seeing her uncomfortable in this interaction. It was just
And
weird.
and that's fair, and that's Victor is his name,
Yes. Yeah,
and
I was getting there.
okay,
But yes.
and he is creepy.
He
Um,
is.
but, like, I also, uh, I try and I know I'm trying not to sway you guys in any way. Victor is one of my other favorite characters in this.
I don't think he's a bad character. I have theories about him already, which we can get into later because it ties into something that happens like near the end of the episode. But yeah, I don't think there's any malice in Victor. I think he's just a weird dude. At least that's the vibe so far. Again, we're still so early in this. I'm I got thoughts about him. Um,
It was also in this kitchen scene where, like, I kinda put 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 together, and, like, all this math equals Swedish fish to me. But either way, it was at this moment, I'm like, "How do they have electricity? There's no cell service. There's no way for any of these electricians to come in and, like, maintenance any of this stuff." This was kind of one of the questions, like, it was a weird fluorescent light behind Julie, and I'm
yeah.
like, "How do they have electricity?"
And that's a very fair question
Yeah.
that we will not
Um
find the answer to yet.
Ah.
Anytime soon, probably. Okay, so as he's talking at her because she's not really responding to him, Fatima comes in and tells him to move on, and then tells Julie that she's going to be her proxy and just to ignore Victor because he's creepy but harmless and has been here a long time. Which I want to know what a long time is, but we don't have that
Right.
information yet. But she talks about that, like, everyone needs to focus on the good things and tells Julie that she wants to show her something and that she'll, like, untie her if, she says she won't, like, do anything crazy. Also, there's one part of the scene after, Fatima comes in where Julie's still tied up, and she, like, tries to hand her an apple from, like, 5 feet away while she's still tied up and has no hands that, like, we all commented on. We're just like, "What was she expecting?"
I was so offended for Julie. I was like, "What you want her to grab that with?"
Yes, it was so random. But also, like, trying to do something nice, but just, like, really funny that she's like, "Here, take this apple." With what? Yeah. So, she takes Julie up to her and Ellis's room, shows her this art, and this is, like, a bunch of art that is very much so about, like, what's happening in the town. So, like, to me, a lot of it was creepy, but she shows Julie the art, and she even says, like, "Oh, he'd really like to draw you because you're beautiful." And that was just a weird like, I don't know, it was just so weird to me, the way she
Sh
said it, that would just, like
she to me, it gave unicorn hunter vibes, and if you know anything about unicorn hunters, those poor, poor bisexuals.
yeah, yeah. And maybe that is it. I don't know. But
I don't know, but that's what it gave me. I'm like, "Ooh, creepy." I know she doesn't mean anything bad by it, but ooh,
it felt kinda predatory, though, like, I don't
it
know, it was
did.
It
just
did
like, Julie's going through a lot, and that's your opening line once you get her into your bedroom?
it did feel weird, but I feel like everybody who's been in this town more than a hot second is a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, you
That's
have to
fair.
be. You have to
You
be in
have to
order to,
be.
like, yeah, deal with all this. So they're in this room, it's at, like, the top of the mansion, and she pulls the curtain to the side, and it shows, like, the town in the distance, big moon, lots of trees, it's overlooking basically everything, and she tells Julie that this is what she wanted to show her, just don't look down, just look up, or just look out, and she wanted Julie to see that if you climb high enough, even a nightmare can look like a dream, which is very poetic, uh
Well, Fatima is like a poem.
Oh, she is like a poem, which also, if a guy ever told me that,
You know,
It
I
wouldn't
was
faze.
just thinking I
pretty
would
much.
not do well. I would not do well with an over romantic man who's, like, really
Right.
sweet with words because he'd be like, "You look like a poem." I'd just be like, "What? Gaunt and flat with black writing all over me? What do you mean?"
No, clearly we, don't handle that overly romantic stuff. Huh. But yeah, so we see that, and then now we're going back to the RV, and everything seems okay. Ethan is still out cold, but his vitals are strong. But then we hear a knock again near the front of the RV, and a creepy voice going, "You really should have let us help you." And then we just hear a bunch of spooky noises from outside. It's like very intense, just like whispering, metallic sounds of like things rustling up against the RV, people shuffling around, and then Jim asks what happens if they get in, and Boyd and Christy are just, like, sharing looks because they know it's not good, but, like, do you really wanna freak out the new guy? So Christy is actually very scared and starts panicking, just, like, thinking they're getting in, and I think Boyd has some really good de-escalation tactics. He's a master at this because he talks her down and like reminds her, like, hey, they lie, they play games, they do everything they can to get you to open the door. So like we don't know that they're actually gonna get in. He could just be talking on his ass. So we just keep hearing creepy sounds and they're on the roof. Like the something's walking on the roof. But Boyd again is able to get everyone to calm down and gets them to focus on Ethan. And that's the end of that scene. We are now back at the house for like a
Can I
weird
say, though, if
yeah.
I was in the dad's position, right, as a parent, my kid is hurt, And I get that these two here, they're helping whatever, but like if I was in his position and I'd have heard that thing, right, say, "You really should have let us help you." I would be so conflicted. I would be like, What do you what?" You know what I mean? I got these 2 in here talking about monsters and shit, and then I got somebody out there going, "You really should have let us help you." I'd be so conflicted
I
because,
feel
like,
like
he
the
doesn't
way
know.
Yeah, but the way that it was said was such a threat.
I
Like,
guess. But I
I don't
mean,
know, I
like,
feel like that
you
would
gotta
have
think
made me
through.
think, "Oh, they were telling the truth. That
Well,
shit's bad out
I'm gonna be
there."
so honest with you. The only way to kill a parent in a horror movie is to fuck with their kid. Have you ever noticed that movie trope? Like, there's all sorts of horror movie tropes, but the only way to actually off a parent is to fuck with their kid. And that would be the quickest way to get me. They'd be like, "We really should have helped you. You should have let us help you." I'd have ripped open there like, "What the fuck you mean by that?" I'm
Note to
dead.
self, don't go anywhere with Beans and her kid because that would piss me off so bad if you fell for that.
Well,
Because
no,
that
well,
was
because
full
here's
on
the
a
thing.
threat.
Well, it was, but you gotta think, parents don't think clearly, especially when their child is in distress. So, I mean, good on this guy or lacking on writing. Either way, that's quite the parental conundrum.
I would think that just because, like, he is seeing that they are actually caring for his kid, he's calm, like, he's sleeping, but, like, he's doing okay, that I would be like, "Okay,
Mhm.
clearly these people are actually helping, so this is my best bet. I don't know what's out there. They've told me it's scary. Some dude just threatened me." Yeah, I feel like
And
I would be like, I'm gonna stick with the people who are actually helping right now."
the history he has with Boyd at this point is that Boyd was the one who came when the RV flipped. And
Yes.
That's
Boyd was the
true.
one who jumped in the RV and, like, got told him his wife was okay and helped his
Yeah.
daughter out and helped get him out of where he was stuck. Like, so that he has, even though it's, like, literally a couple hours of history, it is history of them being helpful.
That's
Where, like,
true.
outdoor creepy people, not so much.
Yeah. I would have liked to see somewhere in this RV, like, a scene of Jim looking out and seeing these people in, like, their super 50s get-ups and just being like, "Ooh, something was weird about them," just smiling in the woods. Like, it would have been interesting to see his reaction to seeing them instead of just hearing Boyd talk about them. But we don't get that. So, yes.
I do have like, and I'm sure it will be answered, but I would like to understand because it's pretty clear that these entities need to be let in, right? You have to
Mhm.
let them in. So like kind of old school vampire rules here with that. They need to be let in. What is the purpose of covering the windows with
They
blankets
said
and things?
they had said at one point that it's just to, like, help with the temptation. And this is when,
But it
she's, like,
makes you
opening the window.
wonder, do they have almost like charming ability? You know what I mean? Like, if you look into their eyes or some shenanigans. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder
Maybe?
how deep that their abilities go, is what the
Yeah.
blankets make me wonder the most.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, but, like, Boyd does, like, look out himself. So, like, I don't.
Yeah, he does look out, but he doesn't look at them.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out. Laura's probably just, like, laughing on mute
She's
over
probably over
there.
there laughing like, "Ha ha, idiots."
I know all the things.
Yeah.
No, you guys are doing I love it. You guys are asking questions that I was asking at this point too, and some of that I'm still asking. So,
Okay.
No.
Great. Love that. I love not having answers. It's my favorite.
they're still filming another season. Maybe we'll get all of the answers.
Yay. Um, okay, so this is, like, a very short scene that I had to include. Like, I don't know that it brings anything to the table, but, like, it's just a weird, poor Julie's going through it, kind of scene. So back at the house, Ellis, you know what? Actually, I think I'm jumping ahead. I am. Sorry. This is another short scene, but Ellis is getting Father Cautry and the deputy settled, and lets them know that they've got, like, some space to sleep, and basically hands them a giant ass jug of moonshine. And like, they're a little tense with him. Clearly, there's still some, like, tension between the townies and the colony house, but, like, it's okay. Nothing too crazy happens. He just gives them the moonshine, and leaves for the night. So now we actually go to the clinic, for the first time, and the nurse and the old man, who is Kenny's father, are playing some chess. And he talks about how chess was the only way for him to communicate when he first came to America because it's like a universal language. He couldn't talk to anyone, but he could play chess with them. So there's just like a little bonding. And as they talk, he starts losing his coherence, and switches between languages. And he's just overall confused. And so she takes him to bed.
But, like, specifically, he's reminiscent on his son and how he wanted to take an American name and how moving to this country wasn't easy,
Yes.
and it
Yes, he
was
does talk about
very
that too.
touching.
Yes. Yeah, because she says, "Oh, Kenny came by," and he was like, "That's not his name," and, like, tells her his true name that I cannot remember because names are hard, and then how he wanted to be more American, so they call him Kenny. Um, so then we go back to the RV, and we're finally gonna remove the table leg. Finally. So they all work together to hold Ethan steady and then pull the table leg through his leg, and they show us every detail.
Worst, worst.
Um,
I had to cover that is the point where I cover my eyes. I cannot watch that. It is gross to me. Like, you wanna rip a human apart by a monster? Sure. Pulling a table leg out of that boy's leg? No, no, thank you.
slowly, painfully, it's so painful that he wakes up from the pain. And but they get the table leg out. Christy stitches him up. Everything's good. We're back to the clinic. So now we're in the room where Sarah is with the corpse and she starts talking to herself, or at least that's what it looks like to us because there's no one else in there. So she's talking to herself or voices, saying that she can't do anymore, but then looks a little surprised and replies to no one. Are you sure? Okay. And then she goes over to the body of the man. What did you say his name was?
Toby.
Toby. She goes over to poor dead Toby, um, and apologizes to him and pulls out the screwdriver ice pick thing. And she struggles with it. It is clearly very hard for her, both physically and emotionally, to do this. Because she did not does not seem to have wanted to kill him. But once she gets it out and she's crying at this point. She then goes over to a table and grabs a scalpel, which at this point, I'm like, why is that just so readily accessible to everyone? I get that it's a small town. They don't have like the medical. It seems like they're in a school of some sort, I think. It's not really like a hospital building, but I'm still just like, why are the scalpels and everything just like so easy to get to? Um, but regardless, she goes, grabs the scalpel, and then slowly starts to put it in his mouth and then asks out loud, "All of it?" And then we cut away before seeing what she does. It's just unsettling, just being like, "Oh, so she does have voices that are telling her to do things, and disfiguring this body is like, what is this doing?" Um, so it's very weird. Okay, so now we're back at the house with Kenny and the father, and they are, well, at least Kenny is drunk. And they start talking about Kenny's dad and his love of chess. And Kenny's talking about like his history of just like not liking chess because of how much he played it as a kid, and then he's also just like very upset about Christy being out in the RV because of his crush on her. And just like generally feeling like he's hanging on by a thread here, after Lauren and Megan's deaths, and he cannot find any more bodies. So clearly Kenny is just at his breaking point with the town as a whole and just the constant death. Which is really unfortunate because his job as a deputy, like, he's kind of involved in every bad thing that happens in this town. Okay, so this is the scene upcoming that I thought was happening earlier. That is like a weird, awkward short scene. But Ellis goes up to his room. He takes his shirt off and he just like plops down into bed, only to realize that Julie is sitting on his couch in there, just like watching him. And it's kind of funny because he's just like, oh, like uncomfortable, takes his shirt, puts it back on, and is just like asking where Fatima is. And they just have a brief conversation about how pretty much how awkward everything has been, and how the night has sucked for her. But um, that's like all this scene is. Just like a very short, brief, kind of like, why is this an important scene in my mind? That I don't know. It just seemed like I don't know.
I'm
Um,
just glad he didn't come in with, like, "You're beautiful, I wanna draw you," 'cause, like, that
right.
would've been like, "Ellis, we cannot be friends."
Yeah, I feel
Uh,
like this was just like a bookend to that conversation of just like these two are like there's something weird going on with Ellis and Fatima, and what is their relationship going to be like with Julie going forward? I don't know. It was just a weird kind of introduction for them.
like, I understand that you can see it in Ellis's character that he's clearly a little uncomfortable, that he was not warned that she was in there because obviously he
Yeah.
wouldn't have taken his shirt off and flopped down in bed if he had known a underage girls all up in his room. Um But it's just kinda why wouldn't Fatima have told him, "Hey, so I left the new girl in your room because you have a lot of drawings, and maybe it's more comforting for her to see art," and maybe, who knows? We don't know the conversation that happened with that. But why wouldn't she have told him, "Hey, so I left an underage child in your room. Maybe don't
Well,
get naked."
and I will say that like he asks where she is, and Julie's like, "Oh, she just went to the bathroom." So maybe she just wasn't expecting him to come back
Maybe.
without her there. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe she wasn't anticipating him to come back as soon as he did, but it still felt weirdly in a like a predatory adjacent kind of way. Like, let me just be conveniently out of the way so that way you can see how beautiful this man is. Because he is, don't get me wrong.
I do
Yeah.
love how awkwardly he put that robe on, though, when he was like, "Oh,
Oh
shit,"
yeah.
and then
Yes.
he's like, "I'm looking at
100%.
you without my shirt on, and, like, I need to fix this," and, like, hunch over and make myself tiny.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
I
was
appreciate
uncomfy.
all of his body language. Like, can we just, like, pull a little side note here? Phenomenal acting.
Mhm. Yeah. Alright, so now we go back to Tabby, Julie's mom. She's had this conversation with Donna off screen of, like, explaining the town, and she is in denial. But Donna reminds her of, like, the driving in loops, while going in a straight line, going nowhere, and tells Tabby that she reminds Donna of her sister. And so now we get a little bit of backstory of Donna. So Donna tells Tabby how strong her sister was and how they were on a hunting trip when they saw the same tree and crows that everyone sees. Um, they were unfortunate enough to see the tree right before sunset, so it was dark by the time that they got to the town. She said that they drove a couple of times through the town before realizing that it was the same town, and they started seeing people coming towards the road and on their last time through, one of them stood in front of the car and just smiling. And she kind of expected her sister to run them over because she was, again, stubborn, hard headed. But instead, her sister stopped the car, grabbed her gun, and went out to threaten them to move. And again, there were more people at this point in the road. Um, but she said that while she was threatening her, the people just stood there smiling right up until one of them ripped her face off and started skinning her alive in the street. So Donna then says that she froze until she saw more people walking towards, and she just took off running and kept running until she found a bush to hide in and stayed there all night. And she mentions that this is how people used to survive this town um, before they got the talismans, I assume. But she hid in the bush all night, but could still hear her sister screaming. And she says they don't just kill people, but they torture them, and it's like a game for them. They hunt people and then they play with them and they make it last. So she clearly has a lot of guilt over surviving this while her sister didn't. And she even has it down to the day. She says it's been 3 years, 6 months, and 17 days, and she still hears her sister screaming. So I don't know. I think that whole scene says a lot about Donna, not just of like, oh, this is her backstory and her experience with the town, but also just like she's a tough woman, has been through a lot, feels a lot of guilt. I don't know if that'll play into this in the future of the show, but yeah,
Well,
she's got a lot going on.
and to be there for 3 years and 6
Oh,
months
yes.
and survive that, that
Right.
changes you, like, that hardens you. You can't survive that as a weak person. Like,
No.
you would I mean, and that I could not imagine. I think I would be Lauren's way out, by that point, like, "No, thank
Yes.
you." 3
See?
years? 3 years, 6 months?
No.
Nah.
Especially watching people die because, like, yeah, it's been a while. Well, not now, but it had been a while since the last incident. It's like, how many people has she seen in the last 3 years, 6 months, however many days, that she has maybe built connections with and then had to hear that they've died in horrible ways?
Her comment that she makes when she was hiding in the bushes, and she says that's how people used to have to survive here. Um, that's an interesting comment to me because it does kind of poke a hole in like an earlier comment that I had made, like that maybe this was like passed down information with these
Mhm.
runes and these like talismans. It does kind of poke a hole into it because obviously this isn't those talismans haven't been around a very long time because how would she know that if she's only been there and pardon my phrasing of that only been there for 3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they had to use yeah, they didn't used to be able to live in these houses like they are now because they didn't have the talismans. They used to have to hide every single night from
Yeah.
these monsters.
That is an immediate out for me because no, thank you. Um,
You know, if
I'm
I
not
gotta
that
hide
good
in
at
the
hide and
bush, I'm taking
seek.
Lauren's way out too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Right. See? Yes. Okay, so now we're back to the RV. Christy's got like a sailing drip going, and this is a very jury-rigged sailing drip. It's not in a bag. And so Jim asks her about it because that's not how sailing usually looks. And she tells him that they don't really have a lot of supplies, that they stripped some off of an ambulance a while back, but they have to make do with what they have. And she reveals that she was a third year med student before ending up here. And obviously, it's not how she expected her residency to go, but this is what she's doing. And we learn Jim is an engineer. And there's like one point where Christy just like laughs and is like, "Oh yeah, he's still talking in the present tense," and I think that's really funny because this is still like his day one. Like, of course he's still talking in the present tense. He's like his mind has not wrapped around the extent of like what is happening. So like, of course he's still saying like, "I am an engineer. I do build roller coasters and whatever else he does." But then Ethan wakes up and he's not in as much pain. Like he's coherent and he says that he saw the Lake of Tears, which is something that was from, like, the puppet game that his sister was doing in the first episode, and he says, "I saw the Lake of Tears, it was a drawing on the wall, um, and there were so many drawings on the wall," and as he's talking about this dream that he had, we see, like, the camera cut to a room covered in what looks like children's drawings, and Victor is in the room drawing and eating his peaches, and Ethan says that all of them and his family were in the drawings, his whole family, but then someone screamed because the spider came down from the ceiling. And that's just like a weird, like, obviously, dreams will probably have some sort of significance. So, like, is this foreshadowing? And also, like, why was Victor in that cut? Um, it's all very interesting, suspicious, weird to me. But maybe we'll learn more about Ethan's dreams and if they're connected to the town or if they're just dreams and they mean nothing. I don't know. But then we go back to Kenny, and again, he is very wasted. But we get a little bit more of his backstory as well with his father and the dementia. So he was talking about how it had progressed and doctors had told them to lock the doors so that he couldn't wander, but they didn't believe that anything like that could happen, not to his father. And then one night, his dad did wander and ended up taking the bus to the city. I don't know which city. He just says took the bus to the city. And then that him and his mother drove to pick him up and found him. Um, and they were very fortunate. And on the way home, Kenny's like, yeah, we thought we had a second chance. Like this was very like happy for us that we found him because we had a second chance to do things the right way. But then they saw the tree. And so this is just like his beginning in the town. So now we head back to the clinic where, or sorry, not in the clinic. We head back to Sarah, who's not at the clinic anymore. She is in a shower washing blood off of her. She's covered in blood. Blood's in her hair, everywhere. She's washing it off. And then after her shower, her brother knocks on the door and says that he didn't hear her come in, but he's getting dinner started. So this makes it sound like it's still nighttime, which makes me think, how did she get home
Right.
if she was at the clinic at night and it's still night and she's
Yeah,
at home fine?
and that's a really interesting point too because it was nighttime.
Yes.
All of this is happening at the same time, so we know it's nighttime and those
Right.
creatures are out there, but somehow she made it all the way from the clinic to home is, like, a
Yes.
really weird thing, like, whatever is talking to her, is it those things that are talking to her and
Right. It's
getting her
like
to do this? Or, like, is she somehow protected from them because she's doing their dirty work, you know?
right. It's a question of like, is she a monster herself and we're just not aware, or yeah, is she working for them and therefore gets a free pass? Um, yeah, a lot of questions about her uh, that we obviously don't have at this point. So she opens the door and tells her brother that she didn't have a choice, and she's crying. She's full on crying and just saying, "I didn't have a choice," and then asks him for help. And he, like, you see him look behind her, and on the ground there's just like a pile of bloody clothes, and he just looks concerned. And then it cuts back to the clinic that she's no longer at, obviously, and we're back with the nurse telling the old man that she's gonna go check on the other guy whose name I keep forgetting. He was dead, so I hope we don't have to talk about him too much more because
Toby!
I cannot remember his name. Toby. Yes. So she says, I'm gonna go check on Toby. I'll be back. And he tells her very like this is just a very like sad scene, but he's just like he's scared and this place is a nightmare. So he's just like very upset already. Um, but we see her walk upstairs and she's carrying a tray of food, bringing it to the patient room where Toby is, and she walks in and sees him very clearly dead in bed. And it looks different from like when we had seen him before because he's now like fully covered in blood and his body has been mutilated a little bit. So she sees that, drops the tray, runs to the door, and you can see down the hallway, and she looks down the hallway towards the door leading outside, that there are two creatures standing in the doorway just smiling at her. So she takes off, runs for the basement, closes the door behind her, and then we cut away. And we're back to the RV. And Christy is checking on Ethan. Everything seems okay, but suddenly everything starts shaking. And then from the roof, which is really the side of the RV, through one of the windows, a monster crashes through and lands on Ethan. But don't worry, because that was just a dream. Um, Christy wakes up, everything's okay. And it's morning, so they made it through the night in their RV with the talisman. So I guess they should be filing that away for future use. If they're ever in a car, just bring a talisman with you. You'll be fine.
And blankets.
And blankets, yes, for the windows. But they made it. So we see them then getting out of the RV and walking up to the road where we see the other group. So Julie, Tabby, the father, and then Kenny are driving up in a van. And so we see everyone have a big reunion. Everyone survived. Um, everyone's happy. And so then we see Sarah again. She's kind of lying in her bed, her brother's there, and she's telling him the story about, she's like, "You know the story of the girl in the room with broken glass, like, knowing that these shards of glass mean something, but, like, when the girl picks them up and tries to put them together, they cut her, but she keeps trying because she knows there's an answer in them." And she tells her brother that she hears the voices, but she has to listen to them because it's the only way to go home and save him, and she feels like the girl with the broken glass. Like, she feels a relation to that story because the voices to her are like the broken glass shards. And so she tells him that she made it look like the monsters killed him, not telling him who this him is, and that she left the door open. So then we cut back to the clinic, where we see it's now morning. Kenny has arrived and sees the open door, and the talisman is on the floor next to it. And so he runs to the basement, sees the nurse's body, in the main basement room where everyone had been playing chess earlier, and then goes through to the back room. And before he does this, like, the father's with him and tells him, like, "You don't need to do this. I can go through and see it." But Kenny goes, and he goes through the back room and finds his father dead and horribly mutilated. We see the whole body, and this, I think, was maybe one of the more interesting bodies in my opinion, because, like, the previous ones that we had seen, the ones gotten by the monsters, every single one, it was just the chest cavity that had been emptied, essentially, like, all of the organs taken out. But with Kenny's dad, the entire body except for his face was basically destroyed, like, torn apart.
Well, and it looked like they had, like, flayed or skinned his legs a little bit
Yes.
too. Like, there was and that kind of reads with, like, Donna's story of, like, the
Yes.
torture.
Yes. And but, like, it was just so weird to me because I'm like, "Why him?" Like, what w how do they decide which bodies to just take the organs of? Like, it's just there's a lot of questions, and it's very sad because this old man did nothing to deserve this, but it also is what I said, like, I wouldn't wanna be in a space with too many other people because if someone else opens a door, everybody dies.
And that's I mean, it was just such a heartbreaking scene too, because poor
Oh,
Kenny
yes.
had just poured his heart out the night before, a little drunk, about how he can't handle any more bodies and the
Yes.
relationship with his father, and just, oh, it was devastating.
My
I'm
poor little old man.
I'm not crying,
yeah.
you're crying.
My old
Well,
man.
and, like, what you said about Kenny having just said he can't handle finding any more bodies, and, like, he knew that his father was in that back room dead, like, there was no way around it, like, he knew what he was gonna find, so, like, him telling the father, like, "No, like, I'm gonna" and walking in on that, like, he knew what he was doing, and I wonder if this was, like, a turning point for him where it was just like "Alright, I'm all in, like, I'm gonna do what I can to survive going forward," or if that broke him, and I don't know. You know, Laura, but I I don't know. We'll find
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I do know a bit, but, like, also, at this point, they know nothing of Sarah, they know nothing of
Right.
any of that. They don't know how the monsters got in, and I do believe and I don't really remember that they touch on it a ton, but I do believe at this point, Kenny thinks his dad opened the door.
Oh, no. I didn't even think about that. That's
Yeah,
oh,
because how else would they get
yeah.
in?
I guess, yeah. Oh, no. That's horrible. Thank you. I needed that. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
not a I mean, Kenny is just taking blow after blow here.
oh, poor Kenny. Um, damn. Okay. So after this, we now cut to the opening scene where Kenny is again covered in blood, because when he found his father, he grabbed onto him, held his body, and cried. So now we see him covered in blood with the axe chopping the tree, and he does chop it down. But Boyd walks up to him and tells him that the family is going to stay at the colony house for the night, and Kenny says they should not do that. Um, but Boyd tells him that's what they decided to do, and it's just for one night. So then he asks Kenny, like, what are you doing with this tree? And Kenny says that he is cutting wood for a new chess set because the one he was working on with his father is ruined now because they had carved everything but not varnished it yet, and they got soaked with blood. So, oh, Kenny. Yeah,
I'm not crying, you're crying.
right? Like, oh, yeah, I
I
didn't find that
do
emotionally jarring at all. I'm fine.
I do wonder if some of the torture aspect from the monsters comes from a place of, um, we know Kenny's dad had dementia, and we're not sure what Donna's sister, if she had any kind of particular mental illness or any sort of physical ailments, but I'm wondering if maybe it has something to do with a weakness of some sort of the body or mind.
Well, and also, something to think about too is like the now, and I don't know because like so with Lauren and Megan, they Frank was still there for him to be mentally screwed up. But like the nurse didn't get it that bad, but we didn't really know much about the nurse. And like she
Yeah.
didn't seem to have any other connections with anyone. But like with the dad, like, the monsters know who's there. The monsters seem to know these people, right? So,
Mhm.
like, they know that the dad has family. So, is this another mind game, not just torturing the people that they're killing, but torturing the other people in the town?
Right. Right. And we haven't even seen Kenny's mom because we know she's there.
Yes.
He mentions that, like, she's gonna be distraught because both of them, like, he was out all night, and yeah, so I assume we'll get to meet her soon. Um,
Next episode.
I figured there would be some sort of ceremony. But yeah, yeah, I think there's definitely that, torture for everyone, not just the ones being killed, and that's sad because it's not like they can just escape. But yeah. Okay, so oh, also, while Kenny and Boyd are talking, Kenny mentioned that his games with his father had always ended the same way, with him moving one piece around three spaces, just trying to avoid his father's final move. And he says, those things, referring to the monsters, never run, they always walk. And it's like they're taking their time because they know there's only so many places we have left. And we're running out of spaces on the board. And yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a very, like,
That felt
poetic way of
very
saying we're fucked.
it also felt very foreshadowy as well, you know,
Mhm.
even to, like as a theme to carry. Kinda like how the story that the sister was telling Ethan, I think his name is, in the very
Yeah.
beginning, it was very foreshadowing of what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all very deep and poetic, and I assume we will get some more insight into that. 'Cause yeah, I mean, like I had said earlier, if these monsters are playing a game, like if they were not gonna kill the people on the porch, they've got plans. So yeah, if they let people escape for too long, then it gets boring most likely. So I could see them being like, yeah, we're running out of spaces on this board because we can only do so much, but these monsters have the entire board to do with as they want. It's interesting. Um, okay, so we're getting near well, no, we're basically at the end of the episode now. Boyd finally makes it back to the station because he basically hasn't been back since um, the Lauren and Megan death. And he can finally remove the 96 days without incident sign because, yeah, no, they've had two incidents 2 nights in a row. And he's sitting at his desk. He's got the chess piece from Kenny, and he also pulls out a key from his desk. And it's like an orange keychain with a boat on it and words that read to Boyd, but like it's spelled like buoy with a D. And it says love always underneath it. And we get no context for what this key is, who sent it, or who gave it to him. And so I assume that's just another mystery for later, but something to note. And then for our final scene, we are back with Julie and Ethan. They're in the house, the colony house, sitting next to a window, and she has those finger puppets from the first episode out again. And this time it's not like a death scene that she's doing, it's like a very happy reunion scene where like everyone is alive. They were like, no one actually died. Everything's going to be okay. And she's clearly trying to make Ethan feel better and like make up for the story of death and sadness that she'd given him right before they made it to hell. And this time though, Ethan is like not paying attention to her. He's disassociating hard looking out the window. This kid has seen some shit, and it turns out he is still seeing some shit because the camera pans to the window, and we can now see a little boy standing out there on the path outside who looks to be like the same age as Ethan. Honestly, I thought it was Ethan the first time that they showed him because he looks very
Y
similar to him.
yes.
And yeah, he's just, standing in the yard smiling at him before, like, making the shushing face, and then that's the end of the episode.
And symbolically speaking as well, not only is he a child that's out in the day who's probably not there, but he's specifically dressed in all white. And
Yes.
shows or movies, they use colors as like symbology. So
Mhm.
it makes you wonder, what kind of symbolism is the white actually showing us? Is it that he's
Right.
innocent, or is it that he's pure, or is it that he's dead? So there's so many questions that this little child has left me with, and I'm just frankly unhappy with
Right.
that.
But
And
we
and I didn't say it, but also there's a point where Julie looks at Ethan and is like, "What are you looking at?" Looks out the window and she's like, "There's nothing out there." So, yeah, like, either the little boy isn't actually there or Ethan can see shit that other people can't. So
Right.
and I wanna say the monsters are mostly dressed in, like, white as well, white
Right.
for the most part, so that's kind of a weird thing too of, like, these monsters and this little boy are dressed kind of similarly.
Yeah, and I don't think we really talked too much about what they were wearing besides saying that they were, like, 50s-esque, but, like, one of them is in, like, a wedding dress with a veil on, someone is in, like, a milkman outfit, like, it's very interesting what they're wearing, and I had mentioned to you, Laura, at one point that, like, I have a theory that mainly came out while watching the 2nd episode, but, like, that theory is that they're not just in a spatial like loop, but that something about time is distorted here as well. Um, because like why are they wearing outfits from so long ago that like none of these monsters are in anything remotely modern. So I think something is up with the time, that they might just be in a time bubble as well. And the Victor is another reason why I think that because they were like, oh yeah, Victor's been here a long time. And I wanna know how long is a long time for Victor, because if 3 years is how long Dawn has been there, like, clearly Victor's been there longer. And this could be totally off the wall, but, like, is Victor Ethan? Just, like, again, in a time loop? Because, like, when, like, Ethan was doing his dream, he was, like, talking about, like, all our family was in these photos, and it showed Victor drawing these photos, and Ethan was like, "All these pictures like what I used to draw." So, I
Okay,
don't know. Again,
interesting.
could be totally off base with that, but I think there's a weird timey-wimey shit going down.
Okay, I
Will
like it.
someone call the doctor?
I know!
Now how old would you say you would guess Victor was?
I'm really bad with ages, like, really, 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 really bad
I
with ages.
I would say mid to, well, if it also trauma plays a role in how you look as well. He looks to be about mid-40s, but he could be upper 30s.
I would guess
I was gonna say late 50s.
I would guess it's
I
40s.
I would guess his 40s, because you gotta think trauma will play into how you age. The more stressed you are, the older you will look. Um,
Interesting. Well, yeah,
so
but
that's why I kind of backdated because I would have guessed originally early 50s, but I'm like, you know what? If this man's been here a minute, he's probably scared. He's scared as fuck, just like everybody else. So he's probably stressed as
maybe.
fuck. So maybe.
So,
Yeah.
Um,
but
but that's what I would think.
if we go by Lauren's theory, he's been here since he's been like 10, if he's Ethan.
Well, which would make understandably make you why you look old.
Yeah,
You've
which
been here
why
for
which would
40
make
ass
you a creepy
years.
yeah, would make you creepy. But yeah,
Make you
no,
Right.
it's an
creepy.
interesting theory. That's all you're getting
Yeah.
out of me.
Shocking. You're not gonna spoil everything for us on
No.
episode 2?
No. You will
Aw.
I can tell you that you will learn more about Victor very soon,
Okay. That's good.
because the first season really has a lot to do with Victor.
That does not surprise me. He was a very mysterious character, and those usually give us the best backstories and content.
Mhm.
So at this point, do you have any other theories that you wanna talk about?
Yeah, everyone's fucked. That's my big
I
theory.
don't know that that's a theory. I think that's just a fact.
That's just a fact. Hey, facts can be theory too, I'm sure. Yes. Um, I mean, do Beans, do you have any theories about how they're getting electricity, or you're just questioning it?
I'm just questioning it because, like, there are ways, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say that no, this is completely impossible. Blah blah. We don't know because I don't even know why we're trapped in a little space bubble with a bunch of people from the 50s in the first place. Um, so it could be something as simple as because time has possibly frozen here,
Well, that's
because
another
of the
reason why I'm like,
outfits.
time is messed up. I'm like, maybe that's how they got
It
electricity. It's
could
just that
it
it's
could just be that
stasis.
the electricity itself is part of this stasis of this particular situation. M But also there are things that like solar panels that exist. So, it could be a number of reasons why they do. I do have some questions about your fuel consumption and where you're getting it from, because you guys were so stoked about 2 cars. There's no way a whole bunch of gas is rolling up in there. So, like, where are you getting this fuel from?
Yeah.
Us
Well,
to do
and
your cool rescue.
can I where are the peaches coming from?
Yes, where is the food the canned peaches specifically? I could understand fresh peaches, I guess, if we were maybe somewhere in the South or somewhere that has a climate conducive to growing that. I could understand fresh food. I could even understand the booze, right? Because you can grow
Mhm.
the ingredients to make that. I need to understand the canned food. Where are you getting that from?
And I know I asked this at one point, but do we ever figure out where in the states this city is or town?
No, this is kind of it is small town somewhere that,
Okay.
like, we have no clue. I don't in all my time, I don't remember there ever being an answer for exactly where the town
Mhm.
is, and I could be wrong. I did watch it in it's all a fever dream to me, but, so I might have missed some things along the way, but I
Yeah.
don't think there was ever, like, a definitive, "This is the spot that we're in."
Okay. I'm getting
Can
like
say
northeast vibes, but
yes, I
Yes.
can say almost for certain, just judging by the vegetation of the forest, we're not dealing with the southern parts of the United States or even really the
no.
western, because
Well,
there's not
yeah.
a lot of evidence to support well, I'm not gonna rule it out, but there's not a lot of evidence supporting the Western because I feel like if it was somewhere kind of in the West, they'd almost make kind of a point of that, like, "Look at these cool mountains," right?
Right.
Mhm.
So we're not even
Yeah.
really dealing with Appalachia, so to speak. But we could be dealing with somewhere kind of like Northeast, Middle America type ways, possibly outward a little more towards the West, but not quite
Yeah.
California, Washington, Oregon type areas.
Yeah, I'm thinking northeast based on the trees, and just the general landscape. But then also like when people say he took a bus to the city, and when people say the city, I just always think New York, like New York City.
Y-
So I'm
Yeah, I
feeling
could
it's like
see that.
Pennsylvania-ish area.
Yeah, we
That's
could be
what my gut's
dealing with
saying.
like the nips of the Appalachia here a little bit
Okay.
too,
I
but
I do wanna point something out. So when they were talking, this was in the first episode, and I didn't put it in the recap, but the plates from the RV were like, wasn't that like
Arizona.
Arizona?
Arizona.
And
It
then
was
the
Arizona,
plate
and the
Arizona.
other
from
guy
the
was
car
New
was New
York, right?
York, and he
Yeah.
said, "Isn't that where Sarah and Nathan are from?" And he said, "No, they're from Boston." So, like, this is
Gotcha.
kind of a place out of space and time, like, this is kind of a
Yeah.
place that doesn't really exist in the real world, in my opinion. So it could be,
No,
like,
it's real. We're gonna go
relative to
find it.
somewhere.
Let's go.
Yeah, it could be relative to a location, like, the Northeast or something like that, but it doesn't really exist, and that's kind of the thing of, like, driving off the highway and it wasn't a weird exit or anything. I don't think it matters what road you're on. If you are
Yeah.
meant to find the tree, you are meant to find the tree.
Interesting. Okay.
Freaking
So it
tree.
it wouldn't just be like, okay, if I want to avoid ever going to this place, I just never go to X state. It's like, oh,
Right.
it could find me anywhere.
Yes. That is what this
Interesting.
feels like to me.
No, I like that. I like that. I mean, I don't because I now I'm never leaving my house, but yeah.
You don't leave
Don't
your
leave my
house
house
anyway.
anyway.
Guys, don't call us out so loud.
I'll call
But
myself out
yes.
loud and proud. I don't leave my house. I'm a hermit.
Ugh,
You
same.
know that game, it's not human? I would win.
Oh
But it kinda
gosh.
gives me that same vibe there even as that game, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. That is the end of episode 2. Thank you so much for everybody who has listened to this, and we look forward to just continuing on this journey of recapping the show from. So again, thank you everybody for listening to I Found a Weird Show, and we look forward to you listening next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.